First of all, it's wonderful to be here. I'm Denise McCormack. I have been telling stories for many years. I identify as a storyteller, and I'm happy to be here to share with you a personal recollection of something that happened to me, several years ago. At that time, I was teaching English to a middle school special needs bilingual ESL classroom in a troubled demographic. The classroom was filled with too many students, probably 35 of them, all with varying degrees of English proficiency, and the month was January. And I was so excited because, for those of you who are not aware, January is National Soup Month. So I thought that I would use that month and use that theme of Soup Month to introduce all of my students to the vocabularies and words and descriptors for different fruits and vegetables. And to do that, I went to my own local library because there really weren't enough books in the school where I was teaching. And I had the librarians who had become my friends over the years gather for me 80 different picture books that dealt with soup and vegetables, and I took them into the classroom. And I also got programs from the United States Department of Agriculture who have games with the food pyramid and just many myriad things that all work together related to fruits and vegetables, the food pyramid, and soup month. And the month had gone by nicely, and the students had all different kinds of activities. And finally, the day that I had been looking forward to came to fruition. It was a day when I was going to tell the students a story. And when I say tell them a story, I mean tell them a story, not read them a story, but actually do what I love to do best, which was to tell a story. All of the students were sitting in their chairs and actually were paying great attention as I began to spin for them the story of stone soup. The story of stone soup starts out with three soldiers, the tale comes from Russia, who have given up their service to the king, and now they are walking back to their own hometowns, which is along a long, dusty road, probably through forests, but suffice to say, it's a long trip. And the only thing these three soldiers have between them is a great pot and probably a spoon like a ladle. When they came to a small village, they thought, what great luck. And they thought that they would reach out to the villagers and ask them for some food. After all, after this long journey, they were very hungry. They knocked on one door. May we have some food? Do you have something that you can spare for us? We barely have enough food to feed ourselves. And the door slammed. They went to another house, knocking on the door. Can you spare some food for three hungry soldiers? Oh, go away. I don't have time for this. And again, the door slammed. And at the third house, the same thing happened. By that time, all of the villagers are aware that there are three men looking for handouts, looking for food. And at this point, no one even bothered to open or answer their doors. Now, the three soldiers were rather clever, and they came up with a plan. And the plan was to start to make their own soup. So they got some water and they filled up the pot. They kindled a fire underneath of the pot. And then one of the soldiers took out a stone and placed it into the pot to cook. And just when I got to this point in the story with those children, up shoots Christopher's hand. Now, Christopher is a wiry young boy, and he was one of my favorite students, but he was also one of the students who just could not sit still. And here he was interrupting the one chance that I had to tell a story with the hand right up in the air, center front. Oh, Christopher, please just wait until I'm finished with the end of the story. Please just let me finish this one story, Christopher. And very slowly his hand came down, and I proceeded. And I talked about how the water began to boil and how one villager after another started to come out to see what these soldiers were up to. Well, one of the soldiers scratches his chin. Well, this looks pretty good. It really, really does. But it probably would be that much better if we had some onions to chop up and put in. Well, one of the villagers said at once, I have some onions in my house. I'll go get them for you right quick. And so that villager went back to the house, brought the onions. The soldiers chopped them up and put them into the water, and the onions started to cook along with the stone. Up goes Christopher's hand. Christopher, please just let me finish this story. It's not that long. Just please let me finish the story. Then you can ask me anything that you want, and I will answer any question that you have. But let me finish the story, Christopher. And his hand came back down. And I continued on with the story. And I told about how the soldiers then said, oh, what we could use are some potatoes. And a young girl went and got some potatoes that had been hidden somewhere in one of the rooms of the house. And then, oh, you know what else would be good is maybe some green pepper. And another villager went off. And oh, maybe we could use, I don't know what, we could use some corn in here, and perhaps someone went off and got that. And the story kept going, and all the soldiers kept saying was, this stone soup is going to be the best we ever made. And Christopher's hand went and darted right back up into the air. Christopher, please, I'm almost finished with this story. I'll give you anything that you want. If you just let me get through this, you can go on the computer afterward for 5 minutes. Just please let me finish this story. So I continued on with the story, and I told the tale and talked of how when the soup was done and was thick and rich with so many vegetables, that there was so much there that the soldier shared it with all of the villagers. And in this way, it really was the best stone soup. And then I looked at Christopher, who was sitting there, practically sitting on his hands, and I looked at him and I said, okay, Christopher, what is it? What do you need to know? You can ask me your question now. And he looked up at me, this little boy who was just adorable. He looked like a young Barack Obama. And he said, what's a stone? And as I stood there, I thought, are you kidding me? And we had a someone who was an assistant in that room who spoke Spanish, which I did not. And she looked at me and she said, no, there's no equivalent word for that in Spanish. And I said, oh my goodness. And I apologized to Christopher. And it was in that very moment that lightning struck. And I realized that I can't read minds. And when I realized in that moment and replayed this like a quick going replay of a movie in my head in that moment, I realized another thing. People can't read my mind either. And ever since then, if I've needed something or I have wanted something, I don't hold it to myself and expect other people to know. I ask them for it and I tell them what I need. And I know that I can go to someone if I need something. And that more likely than not, whatever it is that I need, the community or whoever I ask is going to be able to help me. I just need to ask for it. And so that's my story, my Christopher story, and what I learned from that short episode at a time when I was teaching at a troubled middle school.
Okay, thank you so much. You tell in a very lively and engaging and direct way. I feel we're in the same room.
Well, I'm glad. I feel like we're in the same room too.
Mhm. So so that experience just mm, made you realize how sometimes people just don't understand each other.
We assume too much.
Mm.
We assume too much. It's much better. It's a testament to the how necessary clear communication is, and it which all of us know here. It's just clear communication is important, and it's as important for the person who is conveying the message to make sure that their message is being received clearly as it is for the person to make sure that they're getting it.
Vicky?
I loved how I love the story, the Stone Soup story, and I love that it was a story inside a story. But also, I love the fact that both stories, Stone Soup and your story, are about pretending that you have it all, and in fact, you don't have it all. And everybody has something to offer to add to the soup, and that makes it all the more richer. And so you came so prepared with all the ingredients, but you missed the one, and there it was waiting for you. So I like the fact that as we all have our input, we all create this incredible soup, which would not be as good if we didn't have everybody's input, including Christopher's, obviously.
He taught me a lesson.
Kevin?
Yes. First of all, Dennis, that was a story that really shut me up. Really, I even after Vicky told, now I actually don't know what to say. I'm really very like. I mean, you delivered a meaning that's so profound in a way that really makes people laugh and question and like just be baffled in the moment. And that's how I am. I'm like totally baffled. Oh my gosh, can people even communicate like this? I really didn't know. And it was beautiful how you blended two stories together. It's like when you added the stone soup story, I was like, I totally went there. I was like, okay, this is where it's going to go. And then there was Christopher, who was like the reality check in between the stories. And kind of it was both. I mean, sometimes I have done this, like when I keep this two non-linear ways, or like when I say two things at the same time, it really confuses. But how you told it was so clear. It was like crystal clear. It was like, yeah, like Sir Eric told, it was like standing next to you in the room and witnessing everything. So I'm just like, I just want to say, I'm really amazed how you really managed to communicate it this way. Like I could understand this was your own experience, but still, how did you do this? It was very short, simple, and hilarious, but still there is this making me think even now. Is there anything you worked on for this, or like to add this communication,
I think the only thing is like with everybody else that this is something that happened to me that it gives me delight to be able to share it and what I discovered. I'm sharing a discovery, and that just flows. So it's I want to give that.
Wow, totally amazed. Great. It's totally enthralled. Thank you so much, Dennis.
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much, Denise.
You're welcome.
Very good.